This video is sponsored by Shortboxed, the easiest and safest way to buy and sell graded comic books. Visit them today using the link in the description. So we are just a few days away from GarageCon, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing everyone that is already registered. If you still hope to attend, there is time to get in on the action over on RegieCollects.com. With that said, today's video is a pretty good video. We are going to take a look at some comics that have seen their values tumble. And the question is now the time to snag these books? Really? Like, really? Just disrespectful. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our first example here. And we are going to start things off with one of my personal favorites, that being Giant Size X-Men issue number 1 from 1974. And we are going to look at 3 different grades for this book to see how it's performing. Starting things off with the 8.0. There are 920 copies of this book on the census, a healthy number of sales. You can see the FMV, and you can also see that there is some 30-day data, which is not always the case for all books across all grades. So let's go ahead and see how this book is performing here. And one, I will point out here that there are a healthy number of copies on the census. There are 11,000 of them that are Universal Blue Label, and overall about 12,000 total copies. So if we look at the graph here, we can see how this book is performing. You can see a massive run up of this book in around 2020, all the way up to a high watermark in April of 2021 of about $8,000. But I specifically want to look at the more recent history, and we're going to look specifically at how this book was selling in September. In September of this year, this book was going for roughly $6,500. $6,500 was the price. And as of November 8th, this book is going for $4,882. That represents a decline in value of about $1,600, or about 25%. And this chart over here on the right-hand side doesn't necessarily tell the whole story, but it tells a pretty interesting story. 1 year average was around 55, down to 53 at 90-day, and then the 30-day again dropping to around $4,800. So this book definitely has lost some value, but I will tell you, it is still a fantastic book. There's no doubt about it. This book is jam-packed, full of first appearances, a very talented team behind it. And overall, in my opinion, just a solid book, despite what the numbers might show. The second grade that I want to look at here is the 7.0. There are 929 copies of this book on the census as well. And you can see the FMV here for it. And again, the 1 year, 90-day, and 30-day data. But let's go ahead and drill in and let's see how the book is performing in the near term. And you can see, hopefully here in September. In September, the book was going for $4,200. And as of November 10th, the value of this book has declined to $3,030, which represents about an $1,170 decline from September to November, or about 28%. You can see that kind of playing out here as you look at the individual sales. Again, all of this data is coming from Go Collect, but they are pulling data from eBay. There are fixed prices. There are auctions. Back in, what was that? 721, there was one that went for $3,100. So again, this book, even at this grade, also has experienced some declines. And the last grade that I want to look at specifically for Giant Size X-Men issue number 1 is the 5.0. And I want to look at this one because it's a lower price point, which I think is attractive to people. The 5.0 has around 582 sales. I'm sorry, 82 copies with a healthy number of sales, 177 lower FMV as I indicated. So let's go ahead and look at this one, and let's see what we can see. You can see there has been a gradual fall off of this one. November, the book sold for $2,300. And if we back up, can we get September data? September, $2,483. That's only about $183 between The September price and the November price, only a decline of about 7%. So not terrible with that one, but again, not headed in the upward direction, and definitely a far cry from where this book was in the summer of 2021 at roughly $4,200 for a 5.0. I actually bought my copy back here in the October timeframe, or I'm sorry, in 2018, I should say, is when I bought my book. So very thankful that I was able to pick this copy up before the massive run up, of course, that we are seeing. So again, Giant Size X-Men, fantastic book. There is no doubt about that in my mind, that this is a solid book, a book that, again, if it has been on your radar, now could be a decent time to pick it up if your situation lends itself to picking it up. So I want to look at a different book, a non-Marvel or DC book. Technically. So we're going to look at Fightin' 5 issue number 40. And there's a lot of people that are probably like, what is a Fightin' 5? So let me go ahead and click on this book. This is the first appearance of Peacemaker, and that's what makes this book really cool. It was released back in 1966, and this book got all kinds of hot as a result of what was going on with Peacemaker, with the new show that came out. So we're going to look specifically at the 8.5 for this book. And as I scroll down this list, you can see that there's a lot of data. There's a lot of data that is not complete here because there are just not a whole lot of sales of this book. But I felt like it was a good book to look at because I kind of sort of dig Peacemaker. There's 147 universal copies out there, 151 total graded copies. And again, we're going to look at the 8.5. There are only 5 on the census, but again, it has 30-day data, which tells us that this book has sold recently. Well, recently. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what we are seeing here. Back in December, you can see that the book sold for $2,800. $2,888 specifically. And as of October of this year, this book's value has dropped to $1,444. That is a $1,300 decline from December 21 to where we are now. Not exactly surprised by that. Again, not a whole lot of sales happening for this one. So, it's one of those things you wish there were more data points to kind of see what was happening in between these two dates, but that's the data that we have. The most recent sale was on Heritage. The one before that was also on Heritage. We'll have to look to see whether those are the same books, but this represents a 49% decline from December to where we are in October. And there are a lot of people out there that will say to me that, Golden Age books don't see declines in value. Older books like this don't necessarily see declines in value, that they are much more stable than some of the Silver Age and modern books that we see. I will tell you that I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. And what I mean by that is that when the economy is bad, there's the possibility for all books to lose value because, again, a lot of these books are purchased with discretionary funds. And so they could have a decline. The real challenge here, and it to some degree or another is being illustrated by this book, is that because the census counts on these books are relatively small, they're not always changing hands publicly or changing hands, period, where we can actually see them. And so you can see here, there's a lot of 1 year, 90-day, 30-day data that is missing for this book alone. And I spent a lot of time trying to find additional awesome books from like the Golden Age, right? That, or even early Silver Age that might make a good video, right? Make a good part of this video. And as I look for them, I was unable to find a lot of books that had data that we could actually examine. And I looked at things like The Brave and the Bold, issue number 28, the first appearance of the Justice League. I looked at Green Lantern number 9, the first Sinestro cover, Detective Comics 122, the first Catwoman cover. I even looked for, some Superman books, Action Comics 242, the first Brainiac. Again, with that book and all of the aforementioned, no real data to speak of to be able to examine how these books are performing over time. And I also looked up Detective Comics issue number 140, the first Riddler, a book that I would love to add to the collection. Again, missing data there as well. So again, this notion that golden age books and early silver age books don't lose value. Again, I don't know if that's true. The challenge is that we don't necessarily have the data to be able to see how these books are performing. But people can say what they want because there's no data, right? There is data for this book, and this is the last one that we're going to look at. This is a Fantastic Four issue number 5, the first appearance of Doctor Doom, and also the origin of Doctor Doom. So I want to look at a couple of grades here. And again, as I scroll down, you can see that there are some gaps here. There's some gaps here in the data, no doubt about it. So I wanted to first look at the 5.5. There's 84 copies of this book on the census. A couple have changed hands. You can see that there is 1 year, 90-day, and also 30-day data. So let's go ahead and drill into this 5.5 and see how this book is performing. And I think it's relatively easy to see from that graph what specifically is happening. So let's see what's early. So we have September data. Do we have September data? No, actually, yeah. So let's see what we have. September. All right. In September, this book sold for $15,000, which is a ridiculous amount of money. $15,000 is what this book sold for. And then if we fast forward to where it is now, it has fallen to $11,400, which represents a $3,600 decline, or about 24%. And again, this is a great book. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. The fact that Fantastic Four issue number 5 is a solid book. I mean, this is a Jack Kirby, Stan Lee book. Again, its value has dropped dramatically. So let's go ahead and look at one additional. I'm going to look at the 3.5. And again, this one has 166 copies on the census, 79 sales. You can see the FMV for this book is around $8,000. So let's go ahead and drill into this one and see what we see. You toggle that off. So in September, this book was selling for $9,000. And as of November, let's see what that sale was. November 1st, this book was going for $8,100. So it has not dropped as dramatically as the 5.5, but it has come down about $900 from where it was just back in September. That represents about a 10% decline specifically for that book. Overall, these books have experienced a decline. All books in have experienced a decline of about 24% in value from the whatever time period I looked at individually to the present day. I think what threw these off dramatically is probably the Giant Size X-Men issue number 1, the 5.0. That book had only fallen by about 7%. And then the Fightin' Five had a dramatic fall off of about 50%. So I think that kind of skewed things for this overall. When you look just at the Giant Size X-Men, the 3 books that we looked at saw a decline of about 20% when you average it together. And then the Fantastic Four books, when you combine them, represent about a 17% decline overall. So there you have it. You know, I will say this again. I think that, you know, potentially this video series is about highlighting books that folks may want to consider picking up, especially if these books have been on your radar for some period of time and you've been unable to get them because of some of the crazy prices that we have seen over the last several years. The value of these books generally has come down, and potentially, depending upon your situation, this could be a good time to snag these books. With that said, I hope that you all enjoyed this video. And if you did, I definitely want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button. If you want to leave a comment behind, please do that as well. And certainly, if you are not yet following me here on YouTube, I want to encourage you to tap that subscribe button. And as always, if you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.